Okay, so my city was Edessa. This is just a timeline going from its foundations to the fall. And I'll talk about some of those events. These maps are just showing its general location in its region. So down here on the bottom right of the maps, you can see Edessa. It's actually in modern day Urfa in Turkey. You can see the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And for just a little reference, here's Constantinople, and you can also see Italy. This map is showing the county of Edessa, which I'll also touch on a little. This map is from 1135 between the First and Second Crusades. If you could probably want to keep that in mind. And its location on the Euphrates River, which is also important. So this is a layout of the city, kind of in its quote unquote heyday as a Christian city. You can see that it was a walled city. And it had 4 gates, the North Gate, the Gate of Hours, the East Gate, the Great Gate, South Gate, Haran Gate, and the West Gate, or the Gate of Arches or Vaults. You can also see some sites of some churches, including the Church of St. Thomas, where St. Thomas's remains were actually brought in the late 4th century. None of the churches remain standing, just remnants. And a key feature I do want to point out is the citadel down here in the bottom left. That actually still remains today, and it protected the city in its pre-modern era. So on the map on the right, it's kind of hard to see, but it's just showing some excavated sites of tombs, shrines, churches, and mosaics in and outside of the walls of the city, including cemeteries outside of the southern and western gates. So this is just an aerial view from Google Earth. You can actually see the citadel that still remains today. The historical importance of Edessa, so its location near the Euphrates River and in general region made it ideal for trade, which contributed to the significance of Edessa and the events and changes that it underwent in many ways. So like I said, it was important for trade. It was also the first independent kingdom of note to adopt Christianity as its official religion. And the Mendelian icon actually goes along with that, the image of Edessa, which I'll touch on. And it was also the site and root of the Second Crusade. And this is down here on the bottom is just a mosaic that it seems to represent the significance of trade in Edessa. It was actually found in Edessa. So the foundations of the city, so it was refounded as a military settlement and renamed by Seleucus I in 304 BCE. He founded it because of its ideal location. And Seleucus, he is one of Alexander the Great's Macedonian commanders who founded the Seleucid Empire, and he named the city after the original name of the ancient capital of Macedonia. The population was believed to be a mix of Greeks, Parthians, and Semitic Armenians, with a believed language to be Syriac. So one of the eras that Edessa kind of went through was Roman Edessa. It was made into a Roman colony after an emperor by the name of Lucius Verus sacked Edessa. And after that, it actually prospered and even produced its own coinage, as you can see up here in the right. Edessa also benefited from being the only trade route between Roman and Parthian empires, which actually ended up to those two empires feuding. So on the bottom left here, this is a relief from the Arch of Severus depicting the Roman capture of Edessa. And on the bottom right here is just a Roman mosaic from Roman Edessa, possibly representing the importance of trade once again. So another era that it went through was Byzantine and Christian rule. So Edessa was an early adopter of Christianity in the 2nd century CE, with its first recorded church in 202 CE. And I had mentioned previously the Mendelian icon, or the image of Edessa, and that was a scarf or shroud which was considered to have the image of Jesus Christ on it. So the story behind that is Adgar V was an early 1st century CE king of Edessa. He falls ill and calls upon Jesus to heal him. And Jesus puts his face up to this cloth and sends it to Edessa and says it will heal him and protect his city. And and it was believed to have been hung over the West Gate for a while, but that may be a myth. And eventually it was sent to Constantinople. So pretty significant piece of history there, the face of Jesus Christ on this cloth. And during this time, Edessa also became a center of learning and culture, especially of Christian scholarship. This mosaic is depicting the surrender of the Mandylion icon to Byzantines per the hands of Edessan citizens. One of the final rules that Edessa went under was an Arab conquest. So that was between 638 and 641 CE that Edessa falls under Arab control, but it still remained an important Christian center in terms of translations, manuscript production, and education. After being lost and then recaptured by the Byzantines, it still remained a point of conflict between the two rival empires, which resulted in local Muslim emirs attacking. So the Seljuk Muslims ended up winning against the Byzantine forces in 1071, and Edessa was used actually as part of a peace deal to be handed over to the Seljuks. And this rule ended after the First Crusade. And this picture is a photo of the seizure of Edessa in Syria by Byzantine army and an Arabic counterattack. So nearing the fall of Edessa, as I had previously mentioned, the county of Edessa, it was created by the successful leader of the First Crusade. And it was actually one of the first counties that was created by these crusaders. Fast forward to the Second Crusade. Imad ad-Din Zengi, who was an independent Muslim ruler, he wanted Edessa for its rich history, its wealth, its ideal location. So he and his men encircled the city naturally and destroyed one of the defensive walls and eventually takes over. So word of this reaches the Pope at the time, Pope Eugenius, who called for this Second Crusade to take the city back before help could arrive. Edessa and its fortifications were systematically destroyed by Nur ad-Din, who was Imad's successor, to ensure Edessa could not be used by enemies. So Edessa, one of the first counties to be created, also one of the first to fall in the Second Crusade, and that was around 1150 CE. Was the end of Edessa. So today, there's really not much physically remaining. Lots of history, but not much to show for it. What is remaining, as I've mentioned, the citadel, which is more modernly referred to as the Castle of Urfa. And it has these two Roman columns that were believed to be once topped with statues of Abgar the Eighth and his queen. And they're believed to be dated around the 3rd or 4th century CE. Also, fortification walls, believed to be dated around 300 BC, repeatedly repaired because of all of the attacks that Edessa underwent, about 5 meters tall and very defensive. So there's also these remains of some sort of tower in the citadel with some details of ancient fragments. And that is Edessa.